in this evening's live. I suppose we should go over some of the developments here outside of the charts. I apologize for being on a little bit late. It's been a very, very busy day today. My son's physical therapy got moved from Friday to today in the late to early evening, late afternoon, early evening. So I decided to come on here. I didn't know how much time I would have, but I figured even if I had a half hour, I'm going to come on here. But I do feel like it's going to be closer to an hour. I'll have time to do this. It's just we're going to be running into the nighttime routine with all the kids, so it's going to be interesting here as we get closer to like 8:30-ish. But we do have a little bit of a development here today when it comes to the Ripple versus SEC case. So the appellate court pauses SEC versus Ripple XRP lawsuit appeal for 60 days as the SEC drops appeal. There's going to be an update due on June 15th, so we'll read through this when we get into this live. I could actually find a deeper article than this as well, so that we would have a little bit more to go on than just this one article, because that's not a lot that they wrote about it, to be honest with you. Should be able to do something here. Because we want to see the updated, it's only been, I mean, we know it was already put into this, but at least this, if I read it like this, it'll give us, it'll allow me to read it. I wanted to read it deeper, though. The ruling signed by judges that no legal arguments or decisions will be made while the appeal. All right, this is what I wanted. Something deeper. I was going to say, I need something a little bit deeper than the other one. There we go. All right, this will give us more information. The other one, maybe I thought I clicked on a different one. But we'll read it. We'll make sure we know what's going on. The XRP price, now with having to wait 60 days to figure this out, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because right now we dropped down, and to me, we're proving that golden cross was too early in the 2 hour, as I suspected. You know, I'm not trying to be the bearish person right now, but we suspected it was going to go lower initially, not long term, that the pattern's just done. But we drew this out for the last several days. If you've been in here, I even drew the gap zone. It was all the way up at like 25%, but now with the price action, it's actually lowered that potential gap. So now we'll update it again right now in real time. And if it goes back up, we'll move it. But now it's a 13.6% gap between the free fall that it could have. And what I mean by that is we created what looks like an inverse head, inverse left shoulder. And now it was either going to hold this like $2 line, 203 in here, or it'd fall back into this little channel and try to create an inverse right shoulder. And I pre-drew this out before we started any of this movement to the downside now, and then the re-push back up in the last couple of days and 24 hours. But it does look like to me we don't have enough pressure to continue pushing out. And that ruling by the appellate court only puts a little more uncertainty as to when this is going to end. And now we know it's going to take at least 2 more months. So now you could get the follow through to the downside. All these delays just reaffirms the flip of the switch moment where every time everything has to be. I mean, sure. But I think the flip of the switch moment isn't exactly at one moment. I think it's a culmination of many moments finally hitting that last point. You know, I don't think it's necessarily going to be... it's just, oh, we're flipping the switch and now it's going to go to oblivion. I think it's actually built in. I think it's built into all this pricing. The banana zone. If we could hold some kind of an inverse head and shoulders here and start breaking out to the top side from here, conceivably, but we still have a few things that, and I even drew it a little bit different on all the charts just so you could see it. But I mean, you can't really start anything bananas until you break out of this top part at 270 in real time. And then you can start to talk about the continuation out. But we've got so much stuff. The only problem is that, I mean, we could be filling out the inverse right shoulder here, which is what we want. Otherwise, we've already got on the head and shoulders pattern, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, trying to drop the arm right now. So that's why we're desperate and need for this to be an inverse right shoulder forming here. And then we can start pushing up and out of this range. But you can't, like for me and for anybody else watching or anybody else who's doing it from a technical side, You cannot get into that, oh my God, we're going to get into that just parabolic zone until we break out of this consolidation. And that puts us at 275. Once you break $2.75, what's going to put us into banana zone is when we go into price discovery. And, you know, we've been trying to do that since 2017. And we came very close in late 24, early 25. But so far, you know, we haven't been able to break past certain key areas that would allow us to get into this more parabolic state. Crypto Scrooge, welcome in. How's it going, Tom, brother? Appreciate you, Crypto Scrooge. Been in Tom's Army for over 3 years with the XRP Diamond Hands badge as well. Love it. I'm doing pretty good, my friend. Just been a pretty hectic day in general. Well, my son, at least with his physical therapy, he's been doing it since he was 2. He graduated from he finally did everything because he had a very bad broken femur when he was 6 months old. And he's got, when his foot healed, like his leg, he ended up getting shin dysplasia, which means his shin healed kind of out to the right. So he's going to have to deal with that for his life. But that's what happens when you have such a bad break, especially in the strongest bone in your body with the femur at such a young age. But they finally said he's done everything that they've had on his list when he started at this place almost a year and a half ago. And, but he's been doing therapy since he was like 2 at other places too. So now he's going to take like a 3 or 4 month break until he gets a little bit older. And then when he starts like being able to jump more and do things like that with his feet, they want to kind of look at him again and try to rework with him. But for now, I mean, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. What do I think of Jake Claver saying $1,000 XRP by I don't think XRP's ever going to hit $1,000. So to say it's going to be here by the end of the year, I don't know. I mean, is there a small chance we could hit 1,000? It's going to take a lot of money being flowed in. You know, because when you look at even today's circulating supply, you're talking about so much money. Trial by fire, he's a trooper, man. He's a trooper, though. He deals with it. He's got physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech at school. And then he goes after school on 3 days a week to physical therapy, PT, and speech. But the physical therapy's ending, you know, for the first time. At least out of school. But he's got a lot of stuff he deals with, you know. And, you know, with the feeding tube, it makes it quite interesting. Because he's still got to wear a pull-up because, you know, when you get fed through the feeding tube in the stomach, you just have accidents too. So, you know, it's been a weird thing. So, you know, they make accommodations for him, especially when he goes to elementary school next year. Like, they're making accommodations. He's 5 right now. He's 5. But yeah, he's doing rather well. I mean, we do everything he needs. You know, we make sure he has everything with his feedings and stuff. It's become a thing where he looks forward to it now because he knows he's getting his nutrients and stuff. But he's nonverbal too, so you know, it adds to the element. But a lot of it's from trauma, and you know, he's got a lot of aversion from his accidents, and they always used to try to do things through the mouth, and it got to him after a while, and it's you know, but he's doing the best he possibly could, and I wouldn't change it. I actually like the way he is and his thought process, and I can't imagine it different. So like, what might be hard for some, it's not really that hard for me. The hardest thing for me is seeing when he's like in pain and stuff, and going, you know, seeing when he's uncomfortable. That's the hardest part. That, you know. But anyhow, let's appreciate the kind words. I appreciate the kind words. Can you please watch Spellers? What is Spellers? Hey, Trial by Fire, thank you for your service, my friend. A fire medic, that's no easy task. Wow. And thank you for being in Tom's Army for over 3 months with the XRP Meteor. That's pretty incredible, though, what you do. Papa, really welcome in, and thank you so much for being in Tom's Army for over 6 months with the XRP Predictor. Yeah, I appreciate the kind words, everybody. But can we see the inverse possible right shoulder forming slowly but surely here now? I feel like every day we come back on the live, it's giving us a little bit more, but it's validating more what we've drawn out. I really do. It's a documentary on YouTube, totally free, about nonverbal kids. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely watch it. I'll have to tell Julie. I haven't been on Netflix in so long. I'll definitely go on it. I'll definitely go on it and watch it. I like stuff like that. So what do we think? Do we think we are forming an inverse head and shoulders pattern, or do we think there's something different here that I'm missing? Like, I always want to know what the audience thinks. While you guys are trying to figure it out, let me do the intro real quick. Good evening. Oh, it's free on YouTube. Sorry, I don't know why I said Netflix. I'll watch it on YouTube. I'll watch it on YouTube. Sorry, I don't know why I said Netflix. Sorry, my brain's like working 1,000 miles a minute. My mind's going really fast right now. I don't know how to describe it. But anyhow, good evening. 7:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Wednesday, April 16th, 2025. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. Oh, no problem, Nick. I appreciate you too, my friend, and I appreciate the suggestion. I kind of feel like now that you mention it, you've told me this in the past, and it just, for whatever reason, it slipped my brain's working framework up until now, and now it finally hit me. Like, holy crap, this is what he's been trying to say. So I appreciate it. I do. I really do. So we have a 13.6% move. We could possibly stay. I think we need to stay on top of that rising channel. Yeah, I mean, there's an argument to be made that we need to stay there. I think all we need to do is hold this support, because I almost think it makes us stronger to come back through here. I really do. I think it could make us stronger. Now, the problem is if we fell through here, and I think we all understand, because then it would bring us back down to that gap area. And then, honestly, we have to go to a different chart to really look at that. And, yeah, it's a falling channel, so I don't think it's so bad in that regard. But, I mean, we're on the top side of this channel, so this could technically bring us down here and be on the top side, but that's not even the one I want to look at. The one that I think is the most important right now. Where am I at? Yeah, this broadening wedge is something big. But, I don't necessarily think... Hold on. That's even the way to look at this. I mean, it can bring you here. We've got the $1.30. I mean, I guess you could look at it that way. But this is the one that I like. Forget the broadening wedge and look at it more like this, what we speculated a while ago. And if you fall through here again, the biggest problem is if you fall through this uptrend again, you really have nowhere to go but down. If you break this pattern, if you break this inverse head and shoulder setup, then it would come all the way possibly down to this. That's 160 right here. But if you ride it longer through the year, that's how you can start breaking down. Like, what if we do have to go until like midsummer, or maybe we do have a down trajectory for a while? That's how you could start riding down this pattern. And if you ride this out into oblivion, or even out farther, I mean, you can see how this could take a while. And when you get out, it's like end of the year when you go into the higher time frames. So it's like, yeah, I mean, that's right at the end of the year. If it, but then you'd obviously have to watch it culminate to. Whoops. But I mean, I take this pattern a little seriously, like that we could do something like this. Now, maybe we should have cut it off like this more. Either way, though, you guys, I think you can see what I'm saying. Like, even if we don't want to go up there, I think we all understand, like, this pattern has to not play to the downside. Otherwise, I kind of like it better like this now. It kind of makes it more urgent for it to do something instead of waiting so long. I don't mind that either, actually. That would give it more urgency, and this would... Oh, by October. It still takes forever to finish this, So, I mean, but there's... That's kind of the way I'm almost judging it like this now. Something like this. I really do feel like we could judge that. And at least give ourselves something. So then you could be like, oh, well, maybe 275 isn't the ultimate end-all be-all. And then you can get over 240, break that pivot layer at 265 and go from there, kind of thing. But there's a lot of things that you can go in this pattern and try to break down. I commend the 112 people here. I really, really do. It's, day by day you lose people. And, especially when the market's bearish, but the ones who stick around end up benefiting the most. It really does. No, I agree, Darren. And welcome in, my friend. And thank you for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. But that inverse pattern, Darren, does seem to be setting up pretty clearly. And it's pretty nice to see. We'll go into DGB. We'll go into DGB after, but I want to make sure to read the news about XRP. So first I'll read just the smaller thing, and then we'll get into the bigger article. So Appellate Court pauses SEC versus Ripple XRP lawsuit appeal for 60 days as SEC drops appeal. The update is due on June 15th. So the long-running dispute between the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, and Ripple Labs, the company behind the cryptocurrency XRP, has entered a new phase. On April 16, 2025, an appellate court granted a joint request from Ripple and the SEC to pause the ongoing appeal for 60 days. This pause follows months of discussions and an apparent agreement between Ripple's CEO and SEC staff regarding a potential settlement. The SEC has also decided to drop its appeal in the case. A status update from the SEC is expected by June 15, 2025. The court's decision to suspend the appeal signals progress toward a possible resolution after more than 4 years of litigation. So, when you go into here, and I want to go make sure my son's good because I can hear him by the door, but I want to read deeper into this. I think this is fascinating. And please make sure to hit that like button while we're waiting. Just please make sure. It'll help me pass this through the algorithm. Okay, sorry about that. It's been, like I said, a very busy day. It's been a very busy day, and you know. Sorry, I hit the mute button. I'm sorry. I apologize. So Ripple versus SEC court grants motion to phase appeal on Abbiance. Yeah, more red tape here a little bit. More red tape. In a major development, the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit has approved a joint request from Ripple Labs and the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. This request asks the court to pause the ongoing appeal in their legal dispute. The SEC is now required to file a status report within 60 days. The ruling signed by Judge Jose A. Cabranes confirmed that no legal arguments or decisions will be made while the appeal is on hold. So this is what James K. Phelan shared. XRP Community SEC Government versus Ripple XRP. The parties' joint motion to hold the appeal in Abbiance has been granted. The SEC is directed to file a status report 60 days of this order. Appeals for the Second Circuit. This is from April 16th. One page. At a stated term of the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, held at the Thurgood Marshall United States Courthouse, blah, 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 New York on the 16th day of April, 2025. United States Exchange, and this is just what they're going to do. Defendants and blah, blah, blah. The parties jointly moved to hold this appeal in Abbiance with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, directed to file a status report within 60 days of this order. It is hereby ordered that joint motion is granted for the court, blah, blah, blah. Catherine O'Hagan Wolf, clerk of court. So instead, the SEC must file a status report within 60 days, offering an update on the situation. The legal battle between Ripple and the SEC started in December of 2020. The regulatory agency once accused Ripple of selling unregistered securities of XRP, its associated token, earning over $1.3 billion in profit. Ripple fought back, asserting that XRP is a currency, not a security. The company also partly argued that its operation is beyond the SEC's jurisdiction. In July of 2023, Judge Annalisa Perez ruled that selling XRP on public exchanges differed from selling securities. Also, the court found that Ripple's institutional XRP sales violated securities law, leading it to propose a $125 million fine. Recently, both parties agreed to drop their respective appeals. Ripple agreed to pay a reduced fine of $50 million, a big decrease from the original $125 million. Meanwhile, the decision to pause the case came as the SEC experienced major leadership changes. When Gary Gensler, the former Securities and Exchange Commission chair, stepped down, the agency dismissed its case against Ripple, a statement on its pro-crypto stance. Great to be here, Tom. Always trusted your guidance after a year. Your wisdom echoes through my soul. I really appreciate that, Darren. Thank you so much. I like, honestly, I really appreciate that. The company also dropped the company also dropped its cross appeal, meaning both sides stepped back from continuing the legal fight. The latest delay in the final resolution has frustrated some XRP supporters. Many thought the case was nearly over, and this new development would extend it further. According to CoinMarketCap data, XRP's price dropped by 1.6% in the last 24 hours after the announcement, trading at 211. It was at 208 when we first, I believe, started reading this, or 209. Notably, the broader crypto market is also facing a bearish trajectory, which may affect XRP's value. However, experts predict the asset's price could hold the current price level and rally. Now that the appeal is on hold, pending the final conclusion from the commission, Ripple can focus more on its business operations. The company is rumored to expand its services and explore new opportunities, including a potential initial public offering IPO. And JW, if you're watching, and I'm pretty sure you are, Julie says hi, and I hope you're doing well, my friend, and having a blessed day so far. Love seeing you in here. In addition, the firm is backing a new XRP exchange-traded fund ETF from top asset managers. A few days ago, CEO Brad Garlinghouse announced that the company had bought Hidden Road for a total of $1.25 billion. This is one of Ripple's biggest steps in expanding its business to traditional brokerage scene. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission redemption, the SEC's decision to pause and end the Ripple case shows that its approach to crypto is changing. Jorge, much appreciate you being a very trusted mod and also in Tom's Army for over 6 months with the XRP Predictor. Beautiful. With Paul Atkins as the newly confirmed U.S. SEC chair, the agency will likely be more open and friendly toward the crypto industry. The regulatory agency has also ended class action against crypto firms including Coinbase, Uniswap, and Kraken. This change shows that the SEC is rethinking its approach to digital assets. It aims to provide clearer rules and encourage innovation and protect investors. The outcome of the Ripple case has already set a precedent for how the SEC will deal with similar cases in the future. And I really like, staying up to date on the news stuff. I don't talk about much of the news in my updates or in my 60-second short. I might briefly speak of it. But in the lives, I really do like to go through the news a little bit, especially when things can happen now that we've got a little bit of understanding here. A little bit of understanding. So Ripple and SEC settlement will need Paul Atkins' approval. So Ripple and SEC, so now we can get some information. I don't mind reading stuff over and over a little bit with the same the same caveat with a little different information in each of them. So I think this is valuable. So I hope you guys believe that too. Ripple and the SEC settlement will need Paul Atkins' approval as court pauses cross appeal. The SEC and Ripple's joint motion to pause legal proceedings on their cross appeal has been approved. Both parties will have 60 more days to agree on how to amicably end their legal battle. The Ripple case has been moving towards a final resolution for over a month, but procedural hurdles keep the legal battle open. For example, the commission cannot sign any agreement before Paul Atkins officially takes his seat as chair. When will Ripple and the SEC reach an agreement? The Ripple versus SEC case was one of the largest enforcement actions of the Gensler era, and it's been wrapping up for more than a month now. The commission signaled that it would drop the case and then fully committed shortly after. One remaining cross appeal still stands between them and a final agreement, but they both proposed to settle. That proposal has made progress. The parties' joint motion to hold the appeal in abeyance has been granted. The SEC is directed to file a status report within 60 days of this order, claimed James Phelan, an observing attorney with no direct connection to either party. Specifically, Ripple and the SEC filed a joint request last week to pause all courtroom appearances related to the cross appeal. The two parties were making solid progress with an agreement and wished to save time and legal fees. The SEC also made a similar joint request with Binance, claiming that the two parties had productive talks toward a settlement. That request differed slightly from the joint motion filed by Ripple and the SEC, as the Binance filing mentioned broader policy implications. Still, today's development shows that things can progress much faster than the 60-day deadlines. Unfortunately, there are still a few obstacles to speedy. Unfortunately, there are still a few obstacles to a speedy resolution. President Trump nominated Paul Atkins to be the next SEC chair, and he successfully passed his confirmation hearings. The formal swearing-in ceremony hasn't actually happened, though. It's a formality that could happen at any time, but procedural issues can still hold up the process. That is to say, Atkins will need to chair the SEC to approve a settlement with Ripple. The crypto industry is used to a chaotic and fast-paced business environment, but legal proceedings can take a very long time. Ideally, Atkins could sign a settlement agreement as soon as he takes office. For all we know, however, more minor delays could continue. So, a lot of stuff going on. The liquidation imbalance. How many of you want to read through the liquidation imbalance? Usually it just ends up being some small little thing. I mean, there's a few different things. There's just a few things to read, but I mean, there's not much. We can see what Gensler has to say. I always think it's funny when he talks about these cases, but hey, we went through it so long with Gary Gensler, we might as well see what he has to say about this ordeal. So Gary Gensler reacts to SEC dropping Ripple appeal in other cases. During a Wednesday appearance on CNBC, former U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Gary Gensler commented on the agency's lightning-fast abandonment of enforcement cases against prominent cryptocurrency companies for the first time. As reported by You Today, the agency has decided to drop its appeal against Ripple while also withdrawing high-stakes lawsuits against Kraken, Coinbase, and other key players within the industry. As you've probably watched, as many CEOs were doing almost victory laps in the crypto world as these enforcement cases were dropped by this current administration. What did you think, CNBC host Andrew Ross Sorkin said? Gensler refused to discuss any specific case, arguing that almost 99% of the crypto field is based on sentiment. He has also added, he does kind of look like a walking alien corpse. I'm going to try to find this video after. I just wanted to read what it was. Let's see. He has added that something like Bitcoin might persist for a long time due to the fact that there is a real keen interest in it. If this is just about sentiment, then generally those don't end up well. And most then go down, he said. Gensler then went on to compare the cryptocurrency sector to precious metals. There's only 2 or 3 precious metals. We humans have a certain fascination with 2 or 3 precious metals like gold. I don't think we humans will have fascination with 10 or 15,000 meme or sentiment tokens trading over the years, the former SEC boss added. Gensler, of course, approved the launch of Bitcoin ETF as in the U.S., boosting the level of institutional acceptance of the leading cryptocurrency. However, he is still remembered as the nemesis of the crypto industry due to the SEC's controversial regulation by enforcement approach that resulted in high-profile cases against numerous cryptocurrency companies. So let's see. Gary Gensler. I'm sure all I got to do is type in Gary Gensler and some asshole will have this on there. There you go, see? Let's watch his interview. Alright, so I'm going to go over a couple more charts, and do you guys want to... I'm going to ask you guys, because it's going to be a smaller crowd today. There's not 200-300 people in here. 132. Are you guys interested in watching that with me for 17 minutes? I know it's a lengthy watch, but I really want to watch it. I haven't watched it yet, and I can either do it on my own time or I can watch it with my beautiful audience. And while you guys are trying to decide that, just remember, BITUNIX lowest spot and leverage trading fees. One day, I'm going to go into here probably in the next day or two, and I'll show you guys how to trade on there. The nuance with that is you don't send a receipt from a bank account. You're sending an asset from somewhere else or money from another exchange. So, and then you've got the ability to trade like that. And I encourage it. That's what I do so I don't have to deal with all the BS fees. And then I simply will send something. You can send XLM off of their XRP, a lot of different things. They don't have a couple things. You know, they don't have DGB and ZIL, but they have most things that I want. But then I have other exchanges for the other things. But anyhow, keep in mind with that stuff, because I really think that's going to be something valuable. And I really want to watch it too. So Kryptonian, Nick, and everybody else, King, I definitely want to watch it. So, but I want to respond to this question about DGB, or somebody talked about DGB. So DGB's taking on a progressive push right now. Now, this doesn't mean that it's going to break out, but it's trying to take the up route. We fell back in, unfortunately. That's all. So we're trying to do this V, and maybe we're doing like an inverse pattern right here in a short term, but we do have to break over the resistance at 102 and hold it, and ultimately to retake that pivot point at 107. Then we're going to be off to a little bit of a move up to that 115 until we break out, and then it could be that 107 as the support structure until we're ready to power out, unless we break down, and this just overextended the rising wedge a little bit on the resistance side. And then if it breaks down, I mean, maybe it wasn't set up like that. Maybe it's something like this, right? You know, when you start to make it bigger, then maybe you start to see it still looks like a rising wedge in any event, unless it can break out. So this is why you always want to update your patterns and try to fit, you know, with the new evidence that you have in front of you. You know, you could even do it a little bit higher, but I do think, let me get rid of this real quick so I can see better. But I do think if we're being honest with ourselves, the rising wedge starts like this. We got a nice resistance, and we just had overzealous push outs. So yeah, I do see a lot of, I do see a reason to pay attention to this. I really do. I see a reason. I know some people are going to be, oh, Tom, it doesn't fit what we want. I don't care if it fits what I want. It just, yeah, see, it does go down to that same area. So let's just pay attention. We get out of here first, and we don't get cut down by a short-term rising wedge. The bigger pattern's a little different, but we got to get out of this range. So just pay attention that we're fighting our ass off right now, DGB, to get out of here. You can see we're fighting. We're almost out of here. We just got a little bit more to do. So, but I want to watch this Gary Gensler stuff. I really do. I think it's important. Bitcoin's at 84,000, 83,995, right as I looked at it. And it does seem to me that at all costs, we're probably going to come down here to 82,425 and try to see if we've got any steam. Like, we're just following this across, right? Just following it across. But I don't know. I'm going to quit doing that, but we'll watch this because it does look like we put a little bit of a topping pattern on here. We need some volume to the top side is all I'm going to say. We're getting closer to the weekend now. We're within 48 hours of meeting another destiny. We've had all red the entire year for 17 straight weekends. So we do need some kind of upward momentum here in the worst kind of way. Well, I guess not a lot of people wanted to watch. We had 140 people, and I started talking about watching Gary Gensler, and 35 people left. I'm shocked. Is that how many people don't care about what's really going on? Nah, why am I even asking that? I already know the answer. Unfortunately, when you know the answer to something, it's best left unasked sometimes. I mean, I want people to know what's going on. Seriously.
Florida Republican Senator Rick Scott now calling upon the SEC to delist Chinese companies. Joining us in an exclusive interview to discuss this and so much more. It's his first time.
Oh, true. Some would have seen it. That's
office.
True.
Former SEC Chair Gary Gensler. Gary, great to have you on the broadcast. And I'll start with what Rick Scott is talking about. How do you feel about the role of the SEC being used in the way that Rick Scott is effectively asking for?
First, it's great to be back with you, Andrew and Joe. I miss Becky, but good to see you, Kelly, and all of your viewers. Look, it's a privilege to be in the U.S. markets. We have the deepest, most liquid markets. They've been very choppy recently, as you know, because of all the policy uncertainty. But China for 20 years was not really following our rules. But we were successful in a bipartisan way with Senator Rick Scott. He and I used to talk on occasion about this, with a lot of success with other senators as well, negotiating with China that they behaved and they followed the rules. And we treated China with respect, with firmness. And as long as I was there, they entered into a 50-page agreement, and they have been abiding by those agreements.
So, Gary, you've negotiated with the Chinese before. To the extent that you can try to put your head in their head, how do you see all of this playing out as it relates to tariffs?
I spent a lot of time with their Ministry of Finance and their senior financial regulators, and I think it's not going to end well, Andrew. I think it's going to be a bit of a quagmire. My experience is that they're tough negotiators, don't get me wrong, and they're looking out for their advantage. But the best way to handle that situation is to be consistent, to be honorable and treat them with dignity, and to take the toughest messages private and one-on-one. And I will tell you this, when they see inconsistency in policy, they tend to veer back. They lean back and they don't like to engage. And they sort of think that time is on their side. I'm not saying it always is, but that's how they think, is time's on their side and they can outweigh the volatility of the policy on the other side. So that's why consistency, respect, but yes, firmness is important.
In terms of leverage, to the extent we have any, how important is it to go to them with allies? Trump, Scott Bessent, Howard Lutnick, they're meeting with the Japanese today. To the extent that the U.S. can form some kind of deals with a handful of countries, does that change the dynamic? And do you think, I mean, as it relates to our other allies, that if you're Canada right now or you're the EU, that you're going to say, sure, I'll make a deal with you and I'll pay your tariff, as it relates to then going and working against the Chinese?
Look, I get on some level that, of course, elections have consequences, and this president wants to adjust our trade relations around the globe, that it's been non-reciprocal trade and wants to balance it up. But doing an all of the above strategy, trying to do it with 150 or 200 countries and doing it so aggressively and so jarringly at one time is like a home field goal, a self-inflicted injury. I do think allies are deeply important, as you said, but I don't think it's going to be that easy. I think 90 days to kind of negotiate with dozens of countries, big consequential agreements, and then China's watching all this. And don't forget the real instability for businesses and thinking about their investments. They're pulling back. They have to be much more careful about their investments. And then don't forget about the deep instability in the stock market and the U.S. Treasury markets. And those are some of our considerations, of course, as our economy weakens and our markets are far more uncertain.
Let me ask you a different question. There has been lots of, not just speculation, but we'll call it speculation for now, about potentially folks in Washington, government officials, maybe people in the administration, maybe others, I don't know, and whether they have been trading on or have been aware of things that this administration might be trying to do as it relates to tariffs. You're somebody who ran the SEC. You and I have talked about this topic at great length. I always thought that it would be great for the SEC to look at these things because I thought there's a way to create credibility for the government. I think you've always felt that it was harder for the SEC to do it because effectively your budget is set by Congress.
Well, Andrew, I think our capital markets work best when the public, the investors, think that nobody else has an edge. I mean, they might do better research, but they don't have an insider information edge. And that's critical. And I think trusting government similarly. And I think it's really critical that folks don't trade on inside information, particularly those, whether it be in Congress or be in the executive branch or the judiciary. That's a really critical thing. Yes, the Securities and Exchange Commission from time to time investigates government officials, whether it be in the judiciary, Congress, or executive, about insider trading. They're hard investigations, but I do think it's really critical to our confidence in our government and our confidence in the markets.
So when you see news that somebody like Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene disclosed that she ended up purchasing tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars of stock on April 8th and 9th, this is the day before President Trump made the announcement pausing the global tariffs, and then also bought, it looks like, dumped some Treasury bonds during this period. What do you think, and do you think that the SEC should be investigating what government officials are doing? Does knowing what the president may or may not do constitute inside information?
Well, I'm not going to comment on any one member of Congress and anyone.
You're not the head of the SEC. You can say whatever you want.
But I'm going to say what I want here.
Okay.
I think it would be best for the American public, and Congress has considered this over the years, to actually take a real look, Congress take a real look and self-impose some restrictions. We at the Securities and Exchange Commission self-imposed. We went beyond the government ethics rules and self-imposed on ourselves restrictions on people like myself or Paul Atkins, who's going to take the honor and the oath of office shortly, to trade on individual securities. We weren't able to do that. I think that's a way to better instill confidence in your government and in the markets, and then you wouldn't have these questions about individual members of Congress.
What is your
Just to answer some of the questions, oh yeah, that's a big red flag that they're leaving our markets and going to the other big red flag here is, and Gensler, yeah, like everybody's saying, he's a big liar. Another clear red flag, look at gold at 3,345. I mean, money is finding its way even out of risk assets and leaving the traditional finance and heading into the safe haven. When money starts heading into safe haven, and silver's not moving that much because that's more retail than the institution and governments. And normally silver starts to move the most once retail starts to be like, holy shit, I want to buy, but gold's way too expensive. So a lot more retail's like, I'll take the $32 an ounce silver over $3,300, you know, you get what I'm saying. So you guys are on point there. And like a red flag here today for crypto also is the Dow was down 700 points today. That's real. Another red flag is the dollar is down to 93.30. That means if you have a $100 bill, don't even think about inflation at all. If you have a $100 bill, it's technically only worth $99.39. That's the way you should be looking at it right now. So your $100 bill is not even worth $100, even if you take away inflation. So with inflation, we were getting better pricing still because it was at 104, 105, 103, 106. At 99.40, I mean, it's starting to fall the wrong way, folks. Is gold in the fifth wave? No, I don't know if it's in a fifth wave. It's been in a consolidation for many, many years and then decades. I don't know if you want to call it a blow off the top. It's going to have some big parabolic move. It's already moved a lot, but it hasn't done nothing. And the total sense of what's coming in this country, unfortunately. But no, I don't know about the wave on gold, honestly. I'm not looking at it in a wave form right now. But it is getting close to a big blow off the top, like a massive one. And I don't know if that's going to push it to 5, 6, 7,000. But, you know, in the short term. But I do feel like we're going to be over 4,000 possibly by the mid to late year right now. Probably between the second and third quarter, we'll decide whether or not we're going to go well over 4. But we'll see. Because it looks like right now we're just going to oblivion. But there's always going to be some kind of correction.
confidence or lack of confidence that right now, insider trading or other laws that the
and then when this ends, I'm gonna go inside because my son's getting ready to go to bed. He wanted me to go in, so told him I'd be in after this ends. So after this, I'm just gonna end it. So I hope you guys had a good live. We'll do a lot better tomorrow when I have more time. But I do appreciate everybody who comes in and at least tries to learn and tries to help me with information as well. It means the world to me.
SEC would effectively oversee corporations are going to be enforced during this administration?
I think it's a challenge. The Securities and Exchange Commission, a great agency, when I got there, had shrunk a little bit from...
Real quick, yes, I'm a jabroni killer, and I've been for years.
4 years earlier, about 5%. And we just grew it back to where it was in 2016. They have now shrunk it considerably. It's about 20% smaller. I think that's hard. It's a cop on the beat. And markets work best when you have that cop on the beat. Just like the highways, we do need traffic lights and we do need...
I hate to interrupt, but everybody keeps asking questions. One, I wouldn't buy gold right now. I'd buy gold mining stocks if I was going to buy gold. Because the mining stocks that are getting it out of the ground are the cheapest way to buy gold right now. And I've never thought that before until recently. And then I'd be buying silver ounces over gold. The gold-silver ratio is up over 100. There's no reason to buy gold bullion. You buy silver... You stack it up, and then when the ratio goes back to 50, 40, 30 to 1, you exchange your silver bullion for ounces of gold bars, and you basically get it for half price. That's an untold secret that I use, and many others will, or I'm going to attempt to use when it finally goes back in my favor. but what a lot of rich people do, and they've been doing for eons, and the general public just doesn't know. So I hope that answers your question.
Tops. So to your question, I think the market just inevitably, when the agency's 20-25% smaller, is good.
Welcome
son
back.
of a
And joining me
bitch.
now is Ray Dalio.
The trade war between the U.S. and China escalates. Florida.
Oh, right here.
The trade war between the
Where we at?
Less policed, less overseen for fraud, manipulation, insider trading, and things like that. And I think
These are my
corporate
companies.
issuers will get their
Gold.
questions answered a lot slower.
Gold.
It's a really,
Sure.
listen, it's part of the
Silver.
secret sauce of American success in our
Silver.
markets. And I think your
Silver,
viewers
gold,
benefit
copper, zinc,
by
blah, blah,
a
blah.
fully staffed Securities and Exchange Commission.
Have you weighed in on prediction markets? You know, when Robin, so
What's that?
they've prediction markets, super popular, obviously. We all like to look at them, you know, who's going to win president and what's going to happen, whatever the case may
Yes.
be. Now they're on Robinhood. You can bet on sports outcomes. It's kind of getting you close to the sports betting piece of it. But prediction markets would be kind of a fun to look. It'd be fun if CNBC could host prediction markets. You know, should we be able to? Should they be broadly legal in this country?
Well, Kelly, I used to be honored to chair another agency, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and we took a lot of look at that 10, 15 years ago, and I know more recently. And I think that it does help people hedge certain risk. If you're hedging a risk of weather events and you're hedging a risk with regard to non-traditional financial risk and so forth.
Can it just be fun? Do you have to
I
even
do-
hedge a risk? Could I just spend $1 saying this is what I think is going to happen with, I don't know, March Madness?
Dictator risk, as we had in the last election. Huh?
No, I understand that. I think that it can be fun. I get it, and it can be fun. And following sports is a wonderful pastime. But I think you also have to be careful against manipulation in those markets, people being taken advantage of, and then, of course, the integrity of the game itself. Now, an
It's already
important thing
live
is the integrity of politics.
on the Robinhood app.
The integrity
Well,
of
and
politics.
The integrity of sports is unclear in the era of sports betting, so it seems that regulators have had no problem kind of letting these ships sail and trying to clean it up in the aftermath. But again, you can, on the Robinhood app, I mean, you can go do this now.
No, I understand, and these have been debates for many decades. I think that it's a balancing for the sports leagues, the balancing of bringing fan enthusiasm, fan interest in to the game, and versus the integrity of the game to ensure that it's still, fairly competed on a field of their choice. I worry about it more as it relates to politics and the integrity of politics, the integrity of picking our national leaders. And whether you're Republican or Democrat, whether you're conservative or liberal, just the importance of the integrity of our democracy.
Hey, Gary, final question for you. As you probably watched, so many CEOs were doing almost victory laps in the crypto world as these enforcement cases were dropped by this current administration, of course, cases that you had brought. As you watched that, what did you think?
Look, I'm going to step back a little bit from any individual cases and just say this again to your viewing public. This is a very small part of the financial markets, but if you were interested in this, think about every financial asset sort of trades on a bit of fundamentals and sentiment. But this field is almost 99, or maybe one might say 100% sentiment and very little on fundamentals. And while something like Bitcoin may persist for a long time because there's 7 billion people around the globe, a real keen interest in it, there's 10 or 15,000 others of these tokens. And to think through your own risk, your own personal risk, about where are the fundamentals, and if this is just about sentiment, then generally those don't end up well, and most then go down.
So, I mean, his rationale is horseshit then. So why go after the real utility tokens and the ISO and the IoT style tokens, and why not go after the meme shit tokens? He didn't go after any of the meme ones. He went after high target and high value tokens that actually have utilization. That's where he gets all. He's like a jackass.
Are you talking, you're contrasting Bitcoin with the other ones, or they're all the same?
Joe, I'm glad that you spoke up because I know you're a bit of a Bitcoin enthusiast and think less well of the rest of those. It's how you and I have always connected in the green rooms. But think of these 10 or 15,000 other tokens, and just on the economics, just on the fundamentals, what are the fundamentals?
No, I know, but that was my question. You throw Bitcoin in with the rest of them, or do you think Bitcoin is different is qualitativly different than the others?
I think there's the distinction is similar to in metals. There's only 2 or 3 precious metals. We humans have a certain fascination with 2 or 3 precious metals like gold. I don't think we humans will have a fascination with 10 or 15,000 meme or sentiment tokens trading over the years.
Gary, I wanted to actually ask you something different, which is you're teaching AI
This
now.
guy's an idiot.
And one of the things
Well,
that
he's not an idiot.
seems to be
He's
happening in the
forced to say
marketplace
it.
is there's a lot of trading taking place as a function of AI, meaning literally AI programs are operating on the exchange. Do you look and think to yourself that a year or 2 years from now, I don't know what, that people are, that literally human beings are not going to be making real decisions, and that AI is going to be able to be a better investor than us?
I think artificial intelligence is the most transformative technology of our times, and it's changing so much of finance, investment management, underwriting, and trading, as you say. And I think over the next 5, 12 years, it will change and transform, as you say, a lot. Humans will still have a role, but as we put more of this in the algorithm, it will shift. One thing about trading, though, is there's also about latency. And the proprietary trading shops need to be very quick. And generally, the AI is not that quick. It's quick, but not that quick. But 3, 6 years from now, I think you're right. And I think even this program is being analyzed by artificial intelligence. And I'm no longer a federal regulator, but you can bet that AI is analyzing every word of Jay Powell for his sentiment, every word of the President of the United States, and all the CEOs that you have on this TV. It's the algorithms through sentiment analysis. That's not a big...
See what they're telling you right now? They shifted topics because they have to tell you what's to come. So pay attention to this. He's not a dummy. He appears to be a dummy, but this guy wrote the book on a lot of different things. So don't let him trick you in what they won't let him tell you, kind of thing.
It's pattern recognition. We're going to benefit as a society, but there's also big risks in the markets as we become more computer algorithm and less human.
Hey, Gary, we're going to be up against a hard break, so just one final plumbing question, actually about the credit markets, but as it relates maybe to the equity markets and as it relates to banks. I'm curious, when you look at the private credit business, the shadow banking system, how interrelated do you think it is today to the regular banking system, or at least the rest of the markets, and whether we need to be concerned about it?
I think it's a feature, not a bug, that we have significant non-bank finance in this country and that we're less focused on banks than any other country around the globe. I think that's generally been a good thing of that competition, but it's not without risk. There is definitely risk in the private credit business. And as if we are going into a recession, and many people think that that's 60% or so chance and so forth, and I don't need to recall Jamie Dimon and others. But if we're moving into that recession, private credit will be tested in a way it hasn't been tested recently.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm going to go. I'm going to go put my son to bed. He's tired. He's allowed me a little bit of grace here. Have a blessed evening, and I'll put out an update as soon as I